Time now for our business roundup. I'm joined in the studio by France 24's Catherine Bennett. Hello to you, Catherine. We're starting over in the US, where economic activity is picking up. The country is even seeing a surge in jobs.
That's absolutely right. So we're seeing data from February that shows that there has been a hiring boom in that year. The US added 379,000 jobs last month. That's the most since October last year. And so many are taking it as a sign that the economy could be on the up. That also meant the unemployment rate fell to 6.2%. Now, it's a noticeable increase from the 166,000 jobs added in January. And of course, it remains just a fraction of the 10 million jobs that have been lost due to the pandemic. And it's still 3.5 million jobs short of the employment level this time last year. Nearly all of those job gains came from the hospitality sector. Analysts expect the increase in hospitality jobs to only continue as the weather gets warmer. Now let's take a look at the market movements at the end of the week. US stocks are roaring back after losses earlier in the week, upending analysts' expectations. The Dow Jones and the S&P 500 jumped 1.75%. The Nasdaq too has surged over 1.5% after beginning the session in the red. Europe markets closed earlier after receiving a weak handover from Asian indices. The FTSE was down 0.33%, while the CAC 40 and the DAX dropped almost 1%. Millions of people in Texas were plunged into darkness when the electric grid failed during a storm in February. But some companies gained from the mayhem. Bank of America earned hundreds of millions of dollars in trading revenue as electricity contracts soared in value. The bank hasn't revealed exactly how much it gained during those blackouts, but energy prices surged as much as 10,000% at one point last month. The bank offered $1.1 million in donations to charities after the winter storm. However, it could lose some of those gains as state authorities are currently mulling over retroactively slashing electricity prices. The growing violence in Myanmar is being watched around the world, and social media companies are finding themselves increasingly forced to take a stance on propaganda and potentially harmful content posted on their platforms. James Facina has the latest on measures taken by Silicon Valley giants in the face of the unrest.
Where to draw the line between free speech and the spread of disinformation? This is the challenge increasingly faced by social media firms. YouTube has closed 5 channels run by Myanmar's military. The video-sharing platform owned by Google said the army's videos didn't conform to its community guidelines. The decision from the Silicon Valley giant tops off the bloodiest week in Myanmar since the coup on the 1st of February. And it comes only several days after Facebook banned all of the country's military-linked accounts in one of the boldest moves yet. Earlier this year, the storming of the US Capitol was widely organised and relayed online, with experts saying it highlights once again the need for more regulation within tech companies. But control over the digital area isn't straightforward. For years, tech giants have shunned any responsibility, saying they only provided hosting services for users. But that stance is slowly weakening, and not only among US-based firms. Chinese-run TikTok is also on alert. It says it's begun taking down content after soldiers in Myanmar were found to be using the platform to deliver death threats to protesters through short videos.
Ireland's economy expanded in 2020 despite the pandemic. GDP grew by 3.4%, making it the only EU economy to post positive growth last year. Now that's due to its exports, particularly in the pharmaceutical and IT sectors, which grew 6.25%. Multinationals like Google, Facebook and Apple also contributed. They accounted for half of the total value added to the economy in 2020. Ireland's Finance Minister, Paschal Donohoe, called it remarkable, given the country imposed one of the strictest lockdowns in Europe. But just looking at GDP doesn't tell the whole story. Domestic demand in the country slumped 5.4%, in line with other major global economies. Moving to France now, where there's some good news for the country's farmers. Some local producers are seeing an uptick in direct sales to consumers. Camille Nedelec reports.
This farm has been run by 4 generations of the same family, but even a winning formula has room for improvement. When the pandemic hit, clients started showing up to the farm to buy direct.
Ça a super bien marché, la vente directe. Et du coup, ça nous a motivés, c'est clair, faut rebondir quand il y a des, voilà, qu'on a des péripéties, il faut rebondir.
Demand is so strong he's planning to build a shop. Many local farmers have reported a boost in direct sales during France's 2 lockdowns. Near Paris, this direct-to-consumer business is also booming, having given producers who used to supply restaurants a lifeline.
Il a fallu tout de suite se remettre en question, tout de suite répondre à la demande, tout de suite répondre à l'explosion. Donc ça a été compliqué de se restructurer rapidement, d'embaucher. J'ai embauché donc 3 personnes qui sont avec moi en CDI.
The Agriculture Ministry is trying to boost direct sales and local production with the launch of a national platform in January to help people buy food from their area, called Frais et Local, fresh and local. But 70% of purchases still happen in supermarkets. And late last year, major chains signed a government charter pledging to do more to support local farmers.
Today, the Italian government launched a last-ditch attempt to save its beleaguered national airline, Alitalia, by appealing to the European Commission to approve a rescue plan. The carrier has got some much-needed attention with the Pope's visit to Iraq, as it was an Alitalia plane that jetted him, his entourage and the press to Baghdad earlier today. But it will take more than that to reverse the company's fortunes. Alitalia hasn't made a profit since 2002 and is bleeding money. Rome hopes to convince the EU that a rebrand and a restructuring won't fall afoul of EU rules on state aid. That wraps up the business from me.
All right, Catherine, thanks very much for the business roundup. Do stay with us here on France 24. We'll be back after a short break with plenty more international headlines.